saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Tuesday, September 10th, 2024, the day Kamala Harris steps into the ring with Donald John Trump for a debate. Or will it be a debate? Will it be word salad? Has Kamala been coached, trained like a proper show pony to hoodwink American voters into selecting her for president of the United States, continuing the downward spiral of America's greatness for the next 4 years, probably 4 years we won't survive? Well, we will see tonight, as we see the highly opinionated, biased, leftist ABC News, owned by the Disney Corporation, a corrupt, leftist, woke scumbag company run by American-hating, Jew-hating scumbags. We'll see what happens tonight on that one. So, by the way, we'll also see if YouTube, in fact, limits the monetization of this broadcast again. The last 4 broadcasts have mentioned the evil C word, and that's not one that ends with a T, but ends with an A, evil C word, and an evil country in a certain part of the globe. And each time I've mentioned them and commented and criticized them, I've seen my videos put at a lower level of monetization. Not that it really matters. Don't get much in the way of ads from these live broadcasts. But anyway, nonetheless, it is insulting that they limit my reach. Anyway, welcome back to the program, folks. It's just after noon on the East Coast of the United States, where I find myself today, once again, itching to get out of here and on the road. Looking forward to another trip sometime soon. Anyway, folks, there's an Easter egg in the background. If anybody's seen it, let me say hello to everybody who's in the chat to get us started here. We start talking about news and events from around South Africa, around the continent of Africa, and around the world. If you're wondering what my hat is today, my hat is my Enduring Freedom veteran for the Operation Enduring Freedom, which was a war on terrorism. And I don't even know if this date is ended for this operation, but I am a veteran of that combat campaign as well as others. Anyway, that's the one that started in 2003 and continued all the way up until this decade. Val Cooper's here. Welcome, Val. Monray Seabrits. Ans is back in from PE. Gus, welcome to you. Angelique Nui, welcome. And Arc Precision, Allison Johnson, Alan Kotze, George Steinberg is in from Heckport, updating us yesterday on the story about the so-called racist incident in chasing black folks away from Hartbeespoort. Seems to be a tempest in a teapot, but we'll continue to watch that story and see if there's any merit to it. At the same time, a couple other developing stories and stories neglected in South Africa I am covering, but have not discussed yet. I'll be preparing a video. I have an interview with a gentleman tomorrow about a very serious and concerning topic in the Eastern Cape, and hopefully that will have interest and get some traction for people to become aware of it. Major Chronic, welcome to you. Gerd Gillich, du alte Knabe, na, wie geht's? Das ist mein Freund, der ist deutschstämmiger. Seine Großurvater kommen aus Deutschland, ja, der Gerd Gillich. Ja. Wie geht's? Eigentlich. DeBaron, welcome to you. And then Marilyn Brokenshaw, Marilyn, a host extraordinaire. One of the loveliest people you're ever going to meet, folks. An absolute gem of a polite, respectful lady. I can say nothing but good things about Marilyn and her wonderful husband. They are amazing folks, in my experience. And love the grandkids, too, by the way. There's a greeting tossed out for Marilyn's grandkids. Lynette Orr, hello to you as well. Orlok Fentus here. Marty Fun Ballon. Hello, Marty. How's it going? And I said Ants already. Is Erica here? Did somebody say hi to Erica? There's Erica. I missed her. She said hi to everyone, and I somehow missed her. Welcome to Erica. Well, folks, again, the debate is today, this evening at 9 p.m. I have to check and see who's covering it, whether I can broadcast or not. ABC is hosting it, so I might not be able to broadcast. I might get a copyright claim or copyright strike from those SOBs. But if it is, however, broadcast by the White House, then I'll be able to cover it because that's public. So I'll check into that and see if I can't do it. If I can, I will broadcast the debate tonight. If not, I'll be watching it along with a lot of other people. This is a critically important debate for many, many reasons. First off, the Democrats stole democracy after spending a year railing against Donald Trump with bogus, unfounded claims. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. He will destroy America. No, I think Donald Trump is less of a threat to democracy and more of a concern to kitty cats. Yes, Donald Trump is a kitty cat concern. Remember the famous bogus story about Donald Trump and talking about grabbing women by the genitals? Remember that story? which is something he said, but it's not something he meant. Once again, something taken out of context, a la the Ronaldo Cruz video that was intentionally altered to mislead people. Same thing with the context of Donald Trump. The story was altered, just like Charlottesville lied about misled. But there is a thing about Donald Trump. He is now a threat to felines in Springfield, along with the Haitians. He's actually trying to save them. Grab the pussy. Yeah, look at that. Donald Trump is saving the kitty cats from being eaten by Haitian criminal alien invaders who've poured into the city of Springfield, a city of 60,000, now inundated with 20,000 criminal alien invaders who are murdering their ducks and eating their pets. That's right. Donald Trump says, grab the pussy! Save the pussy! Save the pussy! Donald Trump is trying to save the pussycats. That's right. Saving the pussycats in Springfield, Ohio. We're going to talk about that story and how residents, particularly black residents, are up in arms. Up in arms. Never forget 4 p.m. in my Opel Kadett going home from work, hearing the car radio America under attack. Well, that's tomorrow, Lynette. I was in the American Embassy in Tunis when that attack occurred, and I was actually busy writing some financial reports, if I recall correctly, when the gunnery sergeant called me over and said, sir, did you see this? I was a captain at the time. I said, see what? And television in his office had CNN on, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, you see this? A plane ran into the World Trade Center. I'm like, what? And we're watching a clear day, a CNN broadcaster on a roof in Manhattan, located down the street from where the building is located at, in probably Upper Manhattan, and looking at Lower Manhattan of the building that had been run into and smoke coming out of it. And it was quite puzzling. And they said, well, it was a pilot who ran into it, a small plane. I'm like, there's no way that was a small plane, ladies and gentlemen. I said that to the gunnery sergeant. It was my audience of one. I said, there's no way that's a small plane. That is a huge, that looks like some kind of commercial liner, a 737 or something like that must have hit that. There's no way. And besides, I mean, look at the visibility. There's no way a pilot ran into that plane or ran into that building. This is intentional. This is an act of T. I won't say that to see if we get demonetized here, but it was an act of T, and I said it quite clearly on September 11th. Yeah, we all remember where we were. I remember where I was when I found out that Elvis died. I was very emotional about it. It was very sad, very shocking as well. Not comparing the two, just saying. Dion Kroglenberg, welcome to you. Helen Rich is here. And what else? Big sweeps, and I think it is Cape where illegals are being rounded up. No details yet. I haven't seen anything about that, Keith. No talk about that. But anyway, back to the debate tonight. It's very important for Trump as well as for Kamala Harris. Will we see Donald Trump reserved, respectful? Because if he says anything, she's a black woman, but she's not black. We know that. That's fraud. That's misrepresentation. That's cultural appropriation. She has no historic links to black America. In fact, she didn't even grow up in America. She grew up in Canada. From the age of 12 to the age of 22, Kamala Harris was in Canada, not in the United States. The formative years, as she was a teen, as she went through puberty, as she matured into a young woman, she went to university there, and then she came back to America. She was born in America as an anchor baby to two immigrants who were not even citizens. And that is just bogus. So that's true. She was born here. She's a citizen. She's an anchor baby for her Indian and Jamaican parents who were not American citizens when they were allowed to live here. So that's the facts there, folks. But will Donald Trump be respectful and avoid that trap that ABC will try to put him into? We will see if that's the case. Also, we'll see if she can string together any thoughts or coherent ideas. She's going to try to pull this crap, I'm lowering taxes, when she's actually raising taxes on capital gains, which will crush the stock market, which will crush investment into corporations, which will destroy our economy. Each time the socialists, the leftists, the Democrats raise capital gains taxes, we see a departure from the market. The stock market takes a huge hit. The economy takes a huge hit as a consequence of lack of money for investment, and people park their money elsewhere in precious metals and things like that, in real estate, rather than in the market and investing and growing our economy. This is wrong-headed, stupid. Now, hopefully Donald Trump will hammer her and attack her on her failed border policies, her failure to do her job at the border, her failure to do anything of any consequence, even harken back to her time as the district attorney in San Francisco, when her actions put a 400-year-old Catholic nonprofit charity for poor people out of business, because she did so that her friends could profit and make money for their for-profit organization, which catered to illegal immigrants rather than to the poor who lived in San Francisco. Maybe he'll attack her on that. I doubt it. But he does need to go after her lack of a record and her flip-flopping. She's a bigger flip-flopper than the previous flip-flopper was, John Kerry, by a wide measure. Angus Roy McBean is back. Good to see you. Angus, how's it going now? How you doing? Hey, Tulsi would have coached Trump on possible debate dirty tricks. I think that's hopefully a good point. There are dirty tricks coming from ABC and from Kamala Harris, but she's not bright enough. She'll just be snarky and rude, and we'll see how that goes over. I don't know if any people are in the audience for this debate. We'll see. Who's late? Drinks for all. Who's getting drinks? So what does one have to say? Kamala's a brown woman? No, Kamala Harris is a candidate for president of Jamaican slave owning and Indian caste parents. That's what she used to say. Yeah, Harris is a dork, Alex. Hey, Alex Stockel. Good to see you there, man. It's been ages. All right. The debate is at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If I can cover it without a copyright fear, I will cover it. Nobody's mentioned the Easter egg on my screen, so I'm going to get it now. Trump has a habit of calling a spade a spade. He does, Colin, but it doesn't always float well with the glitterati. Hang on. Given my analytical talents, my devastatingly good looks, and my world-renowned humor, there's Rainier Dutoy. Thank you for your membership. Go Trump MAGA. I have received this goat, the greatest of all time goat. That's to represent me. It was a goat, the greatest of all time, folks, right there. Hey, it's official. It's official. I'm the goat. I'm the greatest of all time. He's even got a little beard there. Yes, Garrett, the Trumpster needs to be factual and calm, and things will go well for him. Things will go well for him. Midnight is our time, says Arc Precision. Midnight? Where are you? 3 hours difference from me. Are you in Iceland? Harris is a dork. Yep. So where's the bloody Easter egg? That was the Easter egg, Alan. That was the Easter egg. Kim is so full of herself that I doubt Trump's sarcasm will get to her. Yeah, probably, Erica. You were right about that. Let me check on something here real quick. Yeah. Anyway, so let's get to some of the news here. We've got interesting news, as always, to discuss, some videos to show you, some audio so we don't get copyright claims. We'll do that as well. And we'll get into what's going on here. Perhaps Kamala's a coffee woman. Maybe, yeah, she's a mocha. Arc, fine, I'll pay for it, but you'll have to do the shopping and come and drink it because I'm bedridden, says Leah. What the heck is going on here? There's a conversation, and oh, that must be Leah came in late, so Arc was teasing her. Okay, I think I caught on now to what's going on. Good Lord. Listen, folks, we're not here to make business happy. We are here to steal the private sector, put it under government control so we can profit and be kleptocrats. That's what it's all about. That's what Aaron Motsalady is telling the private sector. It's not about making business happy. Screw you! Those of you who create all these jobs in our economy, those of you who keep things flowing, those who deliver essential services, food and energy and transportation and automobiles and telephones and clothing and all of the things we need. Screw you! We know better because we are the African National Congress. We are the ANC, and we're here to take your money. That's right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are the ANC, and we know best. Socialism, communism has never worked in the world. But damn it, that's what we're going to do in South Africa. Health Minister Aaron Motsalady has dismissed criticism of the national health insurance theft scheme from the business sector, saying the plan wasn't designed to make them happy. No, it wasn't. It was designed to impoverish South Africans and destroy their health care. That's what it was all about. We are not implementing universal health coverage for business. We're doing it for South Africans, especially the poor ones. No, you're stealing it so you can grift, and you're denying South Africans service by violating their basic human rights. That's right, folks. Basic human rights. We are the ANC. We're here for your money. That's right. A bunch of grifting, kleptocratic scumbags. Speaking of kleptocratic scumbags, I don't know if he is, but the media is portraying him as such. Former Democratic Alliance Mako member Malusi Booi has been arrested. Woo, with the DA. It's so honest and no corruption. I told you every political party has corrupt people in it. Anyone that thinks that's not true is deluding themselves. Well, we don't know if he's guilty, but it certainly looks bad for ex-Cape Town Mako member Malusi Booi, who was arrested in a major probe linked to the 28 gang construction tenders. My goodness. Malusi Booi, the Cape Town Mayoral Committee member fired back in 2023, has been arrested in what appears to be a major construction tender investigation linked to the 28th gang suspicions. In that year, allegations surfaced that Booi accepted cash gratifications from underworld figures. Wow. Former City of Cape Town Human Settlements Mayoral Committee member Malusi Booi was fired after his official office was raided during a corruption investigation with offshoots leading to organized crime suspects. While the South African Police Service has not yet named him because he's yet to appear in court, the Daily Maverick and other outlets have pointed out that they understand he was the person who was detained over a 2-day crackdown. Allegations previously surfaced that Booi accepted cash from organized crime suspect or suspects. Booi, who simply described himself as a farmer on Twitter, previously brushed off accusations against him, saying the saga had put his life in danger. He later added that he wanted to clear his name and get on with his life. On Tuesday afternoon, Western Cape Police spokesman Novella Potwela, without providing the names of those detained, said in a statement that a 46-year-old suspect was arrested when police officers from the commercial crimes and anti-gang unit swooped on a location in the Eastern Cape. The age of the suspect matches Bowie's. A City of Cape Town document showed he was born in 1977. Potlewa says the arrest of the 46-year-old was part of a protracted investigation into alleged fraudulent and corrupt activities at the City of Cape Town's Human Settlements Directive. Ooh, what you got to say about that, Democratic Alliance? Hey, what are we going to? Can't wait to see the press release on that one. We are in no way affiliated with. Here it is. I'll tell you. I'll read it. I'll just create the press statement for them right now. We are in no way affiliated with Mr. Booi. Mr. Booi was let go after we discovered that he was accused of corruption. Talk to someone else. It's not our problem. When you bring criminals in your midst under your effort to be diverse, we bring them in just because it makes us diverse, never mind the fact that they're questionable characters in play here. Now, I'm not saying Mr. Booi is questionable character. I'm not saying he's a criminal. I'm not claiming he's a criminal. But boy, things look pretty grim in the Eastern Cape for this gentleman at the moment. Sean says at least they suspended immediately. Things came light. Yes, they did. They did. They did. They did. They get credit for it. But if, in fact, Mr. Booi was guilty of all of this in the human settlements, in places where housing has been a major topic and concern in the Western Cape and around the country, if he was, in fact, engaged with criminal syndicates, he didn't do it in one day. He didn't do it in 2 days. He didn't do it over a weekend. He didn't do it over a week. He did it over an extended period of time. Where was the oversight from the mayor of Cape Town? Where was the oversight from the Democratic Alliance? Where was the oversight from Western Cape government? Where was the oversight from the people responsible for his conduct? That is the question. It's a legitimate question. It must be raised. And who's responsible for that? The Democratic Alliance. Is Fiona here? Hey, Fiona's here. Professor Word Salad will entertain everyone tonight from the USA with the Don. It's the Don and Professor Word Salad tonight live on ABC. Anyway, look, I don't know if Mr. Booi is guilty or innocent, and I don't care. Well, I do care, but not that much. Ladies and gentlemen, the amount of ink and time and devotion by SABC and Daily Maverick and News 24 and every news outlet in South Africa going after the Justice Minister Simelane is interesting, given that everybody wants her scalp and wants her out because of the VBS scandal. However, let's make something very clear. While she may in fact have done something inappropriate, which it appears to be the case, she didn't steal from the VBS bank like the EFF has been accused of. She didn't force the collapse of VBS Bank like Floyd Shivambu and Julius Malema are accused of. They're not being ousted from part. Well, Shivambu's not there anymore. He left to go play little errand boy for the MK. But Malema is not kicked out of Parliament. No one's calling for his scalp, despite this crisis going on for years now. Yet suddenly, this lady who took a favorable loan from an organization that wasn't even the bank, she has to be dismissed because of the scandal. Look, I'm not defending Miss Simelane, and I doubt that she's honestly innocent here based on what information is available publicly. However, the hypocrisy. Why is this ANC minister the one they're going after and not going after the people who actually caused the collapse of VBS and the disappearance of the life savings of poor Gogo's Venda in South Africa? Why are we not going after that? Why? Ask yourself this question. This is bait and switch. This is distraction. This is obstruction. This is muddying the waters. This is creating chum in the water. Instead of going after the real criminals, the true, genuine thieves, who stole from poor black South Africans. Does that make them racist? I'll tell you what, if a white South African stole from poor black South Africans, they would immediately be labeled racist, 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 they'd call them. Endless ink would be devoted to it. We never hear the end of it. But we don't hear anything about Julius Malema being kicked out of Parliament. But they're going after Simelane. Now, why is that? Why is that? She received a favorable loan, apparently, according to the press, a favorable loan from an organization that did business with the VBS, not from VBS. She didn't cause the collapse of VBS. They're not even alleging. There's no allegation of that. But they want her gone. What's going on here? Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself the question. Let's see if Chris will set up a GoFundMe to raise funds for this non-white DA accused. Well, we know what's going to not happen here. Why would I set up funds? I've never set up a GoFundMe for anyone, N. Why would I set up a GoFundMe? Why would I do that? That's just silly. I've not done that for anyone. So you can stop your horseshit race hustling or you'll be put in a timeout. Smart ass. Yeah, so VBS spot. So notice how the race hustling, racist activity at N comes in here while I'm defending a black woman. Defending a black woman. And this shithead comes in here with his nonsense. I love it. He's such a demonic loser. There you go. Simelane's removal from cabinet mount. ANC leaves it up to Ramaphosa. Well, what about Julius Malema? While another party has added its voice to those calling for Tembi Simelane's removal as Justice and Constitutional Development Minister, her party says her continued presence in cabinet is President Cyril Ramaphosa's prerogative. No, it's the party's prerogative, not the president's. Oh, in cabinet, yes, it's the president's prerogative. That's true. But isn't it comical, folks, that N shows up and types in a response trying to call me a racist as I defend a black woman? That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh my God, no credibility whatsoever. You little slime balls on the political left who run around and try to paint people as racist actually expose your fraud. It's so comical. Hey folks, look, there's this, before we delete it, there it is right there. Ed saying, well, I go set up a GoFundMe account for a non-white. Well, dipshit, I've never set up a GoFundMe for anybody. Yeah, the irony is hilarious, Marilyn. It's Comedy Central. It's right there on the screen as I discuss right now. As I was defending a black South African woman from unwarranted attacks on her. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. I'm defending black women, and he comes here race hustling, accused me of nonsense. It is funny beyond belief. Anyway, but that's just how these trolls behave. Well, the South African Human Rights Commission, captured as much as it is actually going after a real issue here. Now, it's a real issue only in the context that South Africa's Constitution says that water is a human right. And that's horseshit. That's not a human right. Water's not a human right. The right to life, liberty, speech, assembly. Those are natural rights. Water's not a natural right. You have no right to water. Now, you can't exist without it, but it doesn't give you a right to it. It's not a human right. But in the South African context, it's been defined as a human right. So, in that context, the South African Human Rights Commission does have responsibility to engage in this. And 7 years late, 7 years after this became an issue, which I'll be talking about with my guest very soon. Oh, by the way, and he's black. I don't know if you know that. The person I'm interviewing is black. Just so you know that. Just so you know that. Okay. All right. So, and so have about 50% of my guests over time been black. Yeah. Anyway. So, South African Human Rights Commission summons council officials over the Makhanda water woes and service delivery problems. So 7 years after this became a problem in Grahamstown, suddenly the South African Human Rights Commission gives a flying flip. They've issued a subpoena on the Makhanda local municipality, which governs the town of Makhanda. Follows the municipality's persistent failure to respond to multiple complaints of severe service delivery. South African Human Rights Captured Commission Provincial Manager Dr. Eileen Carter said the municipal manager and mayor have been summoned to appear before the commission to respond to the concerns. Let me ask you this question, South African Human Rights Commission Eastern Cape. Where were you 7 frickin' years when people had no water, no showers? Where have you been? Where has your attention been? You're so concerned about human rights, you are absent. You are AWOL. If anybody is to blame, it's the South African Human Rights Commission for not intervening in this issue for people and the residents of Makhanda, Grahamstown for the past 7 years. These are just attention-seeking little whores. That's what they are, attention-seeking whores, looking for attention. This is our issue. This isn't new. This isn't unknown. I've been researching this story and going back and finding stories 5, 6, 7 years ago talking about this problem. But now the South African Human Rights Commission, suddenly looking for relevancy, jumps in. And it's about damn time. 7 years late. Eastern Cape Premier has opened a case of criminal injuria. Ann, are you listening to this? You got to be careful what you say, buddy. Got to be careful what you say. Criminal injuria. Eastern Cape Premier opens criminal injury case against Abba Tembu King over extortion allegations. Dude's got a wild haircut. Looks like he packs it with mud. Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane has opened a criminal case against Abba Tembu King Buyalakanya Dalianyebo. Dalianyebo accused Mayubane of being involved in extortion incidents. The King spokesperson said it was ironic that Mayubane only pressed charges after the death of an alleged extortion kingpin, Nkosi Mareka. Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane opened a criminal injury case against Abba Tembu King Buyaleka Dalianyebo at the Bisho police station yesterday. The allegations stem from public address given at the primary in Mata on the 20th of August, where he accused Eastern Cape politicians of being involved in extortion in the town. He also accused the late controversial Mata West traditional leader Nkosi Samakuzi Dalinzolo Mareka of being an extortion kingpin. Ouch. The knives are coming out in the Eastern Cape. They're coming out in the Eastern Cape. Well, folks, big problem for domestic workers in South Africa. Things are not going well for them. It's a difficult road to hoe if you're a domestic worker. And let's be honest about domestic workers. The vast majority of domestic workers are poor black South Africans who have limited education and limited opportunities and often work long hours for employers, black and white and brown, for a minuscule salary, providing care and cleaning their homes, doing their laundry, doing their gardening and things like that. And that's just a reality. Many South Africans of a certain income strata, and that's middle class, expect to have domestics in their home, taking care of their children, washing their laundry, cooking their food. I find it quite bizarre. I'm not criticizing it, but I grew up doing everything myself, and I'm very uncomfortable with having people do things for me. I don't understand the whole domestic situation. But there are over 800,000 domestic workers in South Africa, one of the major employers in the country, probably the largest, even larger in the security sector, which just has 650,000 people working, security guards and security services. But over 800,000 South Africans are employed, and criminal alien invaders, because there's Zimbabweans and Malawians and Mozambicans doing this as well. Over 800,000 are employed in the domestic worker sector. Most of them get no paid vacation, and most of them are not getting anything in the unemployment insurance fund, and that is required by law in South Africa. And so a lot of people are being taken advantage of, and we're talking about mostly poor black Africans, and that's the reality. Now, if you're... Sorry, I just heard a weird noise. It's daytime. It won't be a home invasion, but I just heard a weird noise. Anyway, back to the story. So despite legal requirements to ensure domestic workers are protected for unemployment and occupational hazards, households have been shirking their duties, leaving a significant number of workers vulnerable. South African households employ domestic workers for more than 27 hours per month, not per week, per month, must register employees with the unemployment insurance fund. But data shows that this is not happening. Folks, if you have a domestic who works in your home, you don't know this, they work more than 27 hours a month. 27 hours a month, right? That's 7 hours a week. That's an hour a day on average. If someone works for you an average an hour a day, you must pay into their unemployment insurance fund. Only 7% were registered with the fund. 15% said they didn't know what their status was. Wow. Further, 59% of domestic workers surveyed said they had no idea about their rights under the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act, the COIDA. 29% having at least heard of it, but only 12% having full grasp of its protections. That's pretty crazy. So, the latest survey shows that many household employers are simply not bothering with these laws, and they're not keen to treat their domestic workers as formal employees, disregarding things like paid leave. Do you get paid leave? 11% of the domestic workers who respond to these surveys get paid leave. 10% say some, and 79% of these domestic workers get no paid leave, despite the fact that they're legally entitled to it. Wow. In a normal work week, as a domestic, how many days a week are you doing domestic work? The largest percentage was 5 days a week at 28%. 3 days a week was pretty common as well at 18%, and 6 days a week at 17%. So 3, 5, or 6 days is the most common. 1 day a week is the least common, and 7 days a week is also uncommon. On the days you go to clients, how many hours a day on average do you work? Most people, 35%, work between 7 and 8 hours. In other words, a normal work day, 7 to 8 hours. Yeah, there you go. So very bad news for domestics in South Africa. Their pay is also quite low. The survey showed that on average, female domestic workers make 3,349 Rand. and males make $3,059. And males are typically gardeners or someone like that. Yeah. So despite their rate being hiked by 8.5% to 27.58 rand per hour, which is about $1.15 US. Measure that against USA, where it's $7.50 an hour federal minimum wage. Yeah. So anyway, domestic workers have the lowest median salaries in the country, coming in at 2,350 rand per month, less than half the national average of 5,417 rand per month. According to Statistics South Africa, 23,000 domestic workers lost their jobs in the second quarter of this year alone, April to June. That makes the total number of workers employed in the domestic sector 843,000. So that's a pretty significant drop. Yeah, and this is because a lot of households are suffering and don't have the resources and money to pay for domestic workers. That's a problem. Right. Where are people going? Because I'm talking about domestic workers. Did it bore you? Some people are leaving. Well, a lot of people left. We're down from 123. We've lost 10 people in the last couple minutes. What is going on? Well, I've just covered the number of days. Where did N go? N, did you leave N? Are you gone? Did N leave? Did you not get the snippet the moment you were looking for to try to catch me, to play games? Did it shock you that I defended a black woman? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. I defend all who are oppressed. Yeah. And next I'm going to hear, you don't defend the Palestinians. Well, the Palestinians aren't oppressed. Well, not by the Israelis. They're oppressed by Hezbollah. That's for darn sure. Anyway, welcome to Fiona. Well, folks, the accused in the Limpopo pigsty murders remain behind bars, remanded because they've delayed. This is not just. They've not been convicted of the crime, and the state has not presented any evidence to the public to explain why these people are behind bars. If they did it, okay, I get it. But anyway. A Limpopo pig farmer and his co-accused will remain in custody after the Mankweng Magistrates Court postponed the matter to next month. That's today. There they are. That's Zachariah Johannes Olivia, a colored man, Rudolph DeVet, a white man, I suppose, and William Musoro, been kept in custody. Wow. They face charges of murder, attempted murder, defeating the ends of justice, possession of firearms and ammunition. Musoro is a foreign national, faces a further charge of contravening sections of the Illegal Immigration Act. Why are people charged with possessing firearms? Possessing a firearm is not a crime in South Africa, unless it was illegal. Anyway, that's a strange story, the pigsty case. We'll keep an eye on it. Well, the Daily Maverick says the Action SA is changing its position because it wants the mayoral seat in Tshwane. They want to oust Mayor Cilliers-Brink because they want the chain of mayoralship. Well, that, if true, is shameful. Action SA turnabout on governance with Tshwane mayorality at risk. The DA has shown no electoral interest in Pretoria's township communities. Instead, it has implemented a command and control model, leading Action SA to reassess its involvement in the DA-led multi-party coalition it has been part of. So says Action SA's national chairman, Michael Beaumont. Now, that is an unfortunate way to lead an article. It should have been quoted. See, this is a news article, but that's not how you do it in journalism. That should have been quoted in quotations because she led with that, and that is the first thing the reader sees. It catches your eye. When I first read it, I didn't see Michael Beaumont comment there at the end. I just read through it, parsed through it. I believe that this was op-ed disguised as news, when in fact it's news, but it's misled the reader. You must put that in quotes when you start a story. That's poor journalism there. Poor journalism. Well, I don't have full confidence in Bafana and Danny Jordan. So says Gate McKenzie, sticking his nose into the soccer world now. Now, again, I find it comical and ludicrous that a country has a sports minister, and I've also said complimentary things about his role as a sports minister, but I will criticize Gate McKenzie when it's appropriate, and this is an appropriate time. Listen, I will never defend Danny Jordan and his crooked, corrupt World Cup tenders and his getting the World Cup, which was probably, if the investigators would bother to spend the time actually prosecuting the people responsible for it, we'd find all kinds of crime. So I'm not going to defend Danny Jordan, and I'm not going to defend Gate McKenzie. I am going to criticize him for sticking his nose in business. It's not the role of a government to tell sports. This is like Nigeria. They fired the entire soccer team because they didn't qualify for the World Cup a few years ago. What the hell is that? The national team doesn't belong to the government. It belongs to the people and to those who support it financially. This is nonsense. Ministry gives directive for Bafana to qualify for the World Cup and the Africa Cup of Nations. And there's Danny Jordan right there with Gabe McKenzie. Yep. Sports Minister Gabe McKenzie says he does not have confidence in Bafana Bafana under the stewardship of the South African Football Association and its president, Danny Jordan, to excel. McKenzie revealed he has given a directive that Bafana need to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations and the World Cup. The national team are meeting South Sudan in the 2025 Nations Cup qualifier in Juba, hoping to gain 3 points and bounce back in Group K. I don't have full confidence. I've got full confidence in the rugby at the moment, McKenzie said. Because full confidence doesn't come with talk, it comes with results. I've got full confidence in the rugby because results are there to see. The results are not there with soccer. The results are not there with hockey. Well, who cares what you have to say, Gabe McKenzie? These should be private organizations, not government intrusion into the sector. AfriForum has launched a challenge to the South African Communications Authority, ICASA, over its racist position on the licensing of Starlink. Also, I saw recently on Twitter, and I commented, I haven't seen if I got any backlash about people saying, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they try to stick their nose in here. Yeah, no, this is a private company owned by Americans and people around the world that wants to do business in South Africa. And you are denying them access to the marketplace because of your racist policies to favor your privileged elites in your cater scheme. That's what's going on here. So AfriForum, the civil rights organization, submitted written comments to the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa to drop their strict race criteria that currently encumber the granting of a South African license to a satellite internet service, Starlink. Now, here's the problem, folks. This is an American company, and the South Africans trying to tell us that we have to give 30% equity to people based on their skin color. That's racist, and that's stupid. It's not even a South African company. We're just trying to operate in South Africa. Meanwhile, South Africans can't access a premier satellite internet provider. Shame on these racists at ICASA. Well, Rassi Erasmus has named his squad for the trip to Argentina, and he's dropped 7 players to give them time to rest. Johan Gerbela will be recalled from the Bulls. That's interesting. I guess that means he will not be playing in the semifinal. A further ding to the Bulls' chances. That's not going to be good for the Bulls. Springbok coach Rassi Erasmus recalled hooker Johan Gerbela to his 28-man squad for their short trip to Argentina. The Bucks will face Los Pumas at Estadio Único Madre Guedes in Santiago on September 21st. It's the penultimate match in the tournament. So the 7 players who will not travel to Argentina are Bongi Mbanambi, Franz Malherbe, Peter Steph Dutoy, Sasha Feinberg Ungumzulu, Damien De Allende, and Cheslin Colby, as well as Willie Leroux. So big changes for the Buck lineup coming up. But Kurtley Arnse is back in the lineup, and he is making the trip. Well, there are 2 countries where South African millionaires are fleeing in mass. South Africa's lost 20% of its millionaires recently, and they are leaving in mass. And where are they headed? Hey, let's get a guess. Where are South African millionaires headed? I know you're a few seconds behind, about 3 or 4 seconds behind. It'll take you a few seconds to put a chat message in there. Where do you think South African millionaires are going? I've told you about one of these countries over and over, and the advantage is going there. And quite frankly, if I was a millionaire, I'd have a residence there myself. I would. And I use the base operations to do things in Africa from this one country. That's where I would be. One place I would be in Africa for sure. Edna Forey says, my domestic saved her money and built herself a 3-bedroom house, lounge, and laundry with which she was very proud of her brothers and helped her father. That is awesome, Edna. That means you must have paid her fairly in order for her to be able to do that. Is Fiona leaving? Okay, thank you for being here, Fiona. We appreciate it. Have a good evening. Be well. Canthan Pillay is here, ladies and gentlemen. He says Mauritius. Okay, Charles Van Altselen, the voice of reason, says Mauritius. Fleshen says Botswana. I would have said Botswana 10 years ago. I won't say it under Eric Masisi's fascist regime will not get my vote for Botswana. Dubai, no, I would never say Dubai. And no. You never go there. Never trust those people. Never trust that country. Never trust them. There's some very nasty things that happen there to people. Expats wind up in prison forever. No. Portugal, says Craig. I've mentioned Portugal in the past, but nope, that's not in Africa. So I'm talking about in Africa. Charles Van Onselen, you guys have got it. Canthan Pillay and Charles Van Onselen, and who else said, but that's it too. It is Namibia and Dubai. No, not Dubai. I'm messing with it. Namibia and Mauritius. Port Louis. Yep, that's right, folks. That's the place I would have. I would be in Mauritius. No doubt about it. The incredibly wealthy are turning their attention to Namibia and Mauritius as investment destinations and residents, by the way. Africa, according to BizTech, is experiencing a wealth boom. Not South Africa. Mauritius and Namibia's millionaire population are set to increase by 95 and 85% in the next decade. That's what they're projecting. Don't know how they make those projections, but that is interesting. South Africa has lost 11,000 US dollar millionaires in the past decade. That's 20% of its millionaire population. 20% of high net worth individuals have fled South Africa in the last decade. 11,000 millionaires. That is a shockingly high number. Now, where have they gone? Switzerland. They used to go to the UK, but they're not even going to the UK anymore. Switzerland, Mauritius. Some used to go to New Zealand, Australia, but even that number's tailing off. They're still coming to America. South Africa is losing St. Helena Congress. I don't think they're going to St. Helena, brother. I'm just saying. I don't think they're going there. Are you guys ready for another Canthan and Chris? You ready for another episode of Iconic? I think it's been like a month since we did the last one. We've got a lot to talk about, but are you guys ready? Canthan's here. Put him on the spot. Do you want another episode of Iconic with Canthan and Chris? And we'll try to schedule it. All right. I did see that he did an Overton video recently. I didn't get a chance to watch it. Craig Fisher says, Rwanda is a great destination to invest in. However, you got to remember that you've got to behave yourself because it's a fascist state. And of course, he has no intention of leaving office, just like his old friend there in Uganda, Yoweri Museveni. Anyway, so there you go. Yeah. I would be in Mauritius. I would tell you that. That's where I go. All right, continue on. Botswana. The police, this is a few days old, but it wasn't really covered by much of the media. Voice of America did pick up the story. Dissidents, protesters outside the government enclave, or in the government enclave, protesting against this effort to create super executive and usurp the powers of the parliament for the chief executive. This is something that Eric Masisi is trying to do. He's trying to usurp the powers and become a tyrant, a totalitarian fascist. Well, he's pretty much overridden the law as he's been president anyway, but now he is trying to do it. And so the police come out and threaten these protesters. Protesters demonstrate against a bill that would give the president sweeping powers to make government appointments outside Botswana's National Assembly back on September 4th, and a story that did not get much press coverage, as the Botswana Police Service is there, pointing fingers. Police and protesters clashed outside the National Assembly in Gaborone on Wednesday last week as members of parliament voted on a bill that would give the president sweeping powers to appoint civil servants holding key positions. Opposition members of parliament boycotted the vote while protesters waving placards protested the bill outside. Members of the remaining ruling party failed to raise enough votes to pass the bill. Well, there you go. Thank God it didn't pass. But this is yet another example of Eric Masisi and his government trying to increase the power of the executive at the expense of the parliament. And that is not a good thing, especially as we see the BDP, the Botswana Democratic Party, on the verge of losing power for the first time in history since 1966, when Bechuanaland became Botswana, and the only country in Africa never colonized gained its independence. Now, that sounds like a strange statement. How can an uncolonized country gain its independence? Well, because it was never a colony. It was a protectorate. Namibia was a German colony. Then it became a protectorate. So it was a colony. Liberia was colonized by freed slaves and free black Americans who went there and colonized and imposed an alien political system and social system on the indigenous population in what became Liberia. That is colonization. Ethiopia was briefly colonized by the Italians during the Second World War. They ruled, they controlled, they changed the political system and imposed foreign rule. Every country in Africa was colonized at some point in the last couple centuries, except Botswana. There you go. Wouldn't Lesotho count as well? That's a fair question, Congo. Chris, I would say that no, because Lesotho claims much of the Free State as their territory, and it was colonized by Trek Boers and by other tribes, other groups, including the Tswana. So much of what should be Lesotho is in the Free State, not in Lesotho. So the territory that is Lesotho was never colonized. That's a fair statement. However, that does not include all of what is Lesotho. But it's a fair point. I should continue that. Yeah. But did not the Brits, I believe, control Lesotho for a period of time? I believe that's the case. So anyway, it was a protectorate. Yes. Okay. So it was protectorate. Okay. So there you go. It was the only one never colonized, plus Botswana. However, as I said, much of its territory was lost through conquest and colonization. So, okay, they retained their independence. King Moshoeshoe did retain the independence of Lesotho, an amazing effort on his part. Air Botswana denies allegations of corruption involving the latest acquisition of the E-175. Air Botswana, an airline perpetually in trouble, state-owned, has dismissed what it called false and irresponsible reporting about its ongoing aircraft refleet after the Botswana Guardian newspaper, not exactly a newspaper of record there, On September 6th, claimed that the state-owned carrier had been duped by a third-party broker to pay $300 million pula, or $22.5 million, for an unworthy aircraft that remained grounded, and the country's security services improperly influenced purchases. Well, Air Botswana said that it followed the country's Public Procurement Act of 2021 in purchasing 3 Embraer aircraft, one of which arrived on August 28th and would start flying once the crew training was completed. So the media says because it hasn't flown since August 28th, it's not airworthy, but that's because they're waiting to complete training. They're waiting for the other 2 to be delivered, and they denied that the funds were transferred to a third-party agent. Additionally, the airline rejected what it labeled as irresponsible and baseless reports of improper influence by Peter Malusi, the country's Director General of the Director of Intelligence and Security. No such influence was received nor solicited. Now, Peter Malusi, in interest of full disclosure, was a personal friend of mine, a colleague. When I was in Botswana, he was the chief of military intelligence, and later was accused of all sorts of things and fell out of favor with the Kama government, and then ascended back into favor with the Masisi government. I don't know that he's ever done anything untoward, but he was accused and charged with things, and he's still in government, so I don't know what happened there. Chinese firms plan to build Namibia's solar residential fleet. Yep, that's right. Yep, Chinese firms to build Namibia's largest solar power plant. They will sign a contract, and that plant will add 100 megawatts to the current total installed capacity of 500 megawatts. 80% of the $1.4 billion Namibian dollar project will be funded by the German Development Bank, KfW, while NamPower will contribute the remaining funds from its balance. So $78 million invested, gifted by the Germans. Will we stop hearing the end of demands for reparations over the war that the Herero and Nama started against Germans? Will that ever end? Here's yet another $80 million given to Namibians, but demands for reparations. Just getting money handed to you. Billions of dollars have been given to Namibia by the German government. It's not responsible for the conflict and genocide that occurred a century ago, yet Germans are still paying for it. So, but we'll still never hear the end of that reparations bullshit. Well, pretty sad and horrific thing happening in Tanzania, where an opposition political leader was kidnapped off of a bus, brutally beaten, and then his face was burned with acid before he was murdered. Tanzania opposition official Ali Kibayo was severely beaten and killed, acid poured on his face. Ali Kibayo, a senior politician and member of the Secretariat of the Chadema Party, found dead on the outskirts of Dar es Salaam after he was abducted by armed men on Friday. His lifeless body was found Saturday morning, severely beaten and almost unrecognizable due to the acid poured on his face. Speaking to journalist, Chadema Chairman Freeman Booi narrated that Kibayo was traveling by bus from Dar es Salaam to northeastern port city of Tunga before he was abducted and taken away from the bus by 2 armed men. It's obvious that he has been killed. A full autopsy would be completed this week. President Hassan, Tanzania's most famous misogynist, even though she's a woman, has condemned the assassination on Twitter, saying she'd ordered an investigation. I've ordered investigative authorities to provide me with a detailed report on this heinous incident. Our country is democratic. Every citizen has the right to live. The government I lead does not tolerate such brutal acts. Well, we'll see what comes of it and why he was kidnapped. That's a pretty frightening situation. Now, here's a story that occurred last week, which we didn't cover. We're busy, and it really didn't make many headlines at the time. But a dormitory fire in Kenya killed 18 students and injured another 27. Many were unaccounted for as of last week. A fire in a school dormitory has killed 18 students and 27 others hospitalized. President Ruto declared 3 days of mourning during which flags will be flown to half staff. Deputy President Gachua said only 86 of the more than 150 children had been accounted for. My goodness. Unbelievable. The cause of the fire Thursday night at the Hillsdale Endarasa Primary School in Yari County was being investigated. The school serves children up to the age of 14. What a horrific situation. Children dying in fire at a school. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Air Senegal will exit many markets, and it raises the question, can they be profitable when they leave such important routes like JFK, bringing illegal aliens into America? How will they make money now? Air Senegal is making significant changes to its network. It will cease operations to JFK on September 19th. Then they'll stop going to Malpensa in Milan, Libreville in Gabon, Douala in Cameroon, Barcelona in Spain on September 20th. Additionally, flights to Marseille and Lyon will end on September 22nd. Becomes as part of a broader strategic review by the airline, which has been facing severe financial challenges and struggling to maintain profitability on certain long-haul and regional routes. In a brief statement, the carrier says the cuts will allow it to optimize its network and better serve its passengers. But that means it will no longer serve Cameroon, Gabon, Italy, Spain, or the United States. And the decision to drop Spain and the United States is quite puzzling because these are big destinations for Senegalese. Well, China is writing off debt, but is it just window washing? Well, it's just window washing, folks. China writes off more interest-free loans to Africa, but is the move just symbolic? Beijing says other players, such as the World Bank, need to shoulder a much fairer share of resolving debt problems in the continent. Well, I don't think so. The World Bank doesn't trade with Africa, but China does. China exploits Africa in a wild way. I think China should be the ones forgiving debt. And by the way, the debt they're forgiving here isn't debt. They made this loan with no interest. So they knew they weren't getting their money back when they made the loan. It was a grant from the outset. But now they look magnanimous because the Chinese have forgiven debt. They didn't forgive debt during COVID. The screams for the World Bank and the IMF to forgive debt and then give more money to irresponsible African countries was endless during COVID. China didn't forgive any debt during COVID. Now they're forgiving interest-free loans, which essentially means that this was a grant when they gave it. So don't give them all the credit that they're seeking because it's just propaganda. I mean, they are forgiving the debt, don't get me wrong, but it's just propaganda. Well, the Chinese government, under a lot of pressure over its protectionist economy and its collapsing economy, has opened up 2 sectors of the 31 sectors that are for Chinese companies only in its protectionist violation of World Trade Organization rules and its flagrant violation of international norms. China will now open 2 sectors. The government said reduce the list of industries off limits to foreign investors to 29 from 31 and fulfill its pledge of 0 restrictions on the manufacturing sector. Yeah, right. So anyway, they announced plans to open up the nation's healthcare sector and Chinese herbal medicine production. Okay, so let's be clear. What countries around the world are producing Chinese herbal medicine? I'm sure there's some. Maybe Taiwan does. Maybe Samoa produces Chinese herbal production. But I don't think there's a big international market for Chinese herbal production outside China that the Chinese are going to buy. U.S.'s major source of producing electricity is natural gas, Lynette. Natural gas. It was coal. Used to have 75% of our electricity produced by coal, but natural gas is now the largest, followed by coal and then solar. Yep. Anyway, nuclear produces a small portion because the left is keeping nuclear power plants from being built. China has harnessed a technology that others couldn't get. Western firms spent billions of dollars trying to take low-grade ore and produce nickel and cobalt from it. They couldn't extract the tiny amounts of nickel and cobalt from it. But once again, this involves denuding entire landscapes, restructuring the surface of the planet to dig up these tons and tons of ore, like rare earth elements. The Chinese, using high temperatures and acid process, have perfected, or at least produced, a process that Western firms couldn't do. And as a consequence, they are raping Indonesia. They are denuding the planet. They are destroying the ecosystems of Indonesia. And nobody's talking about it. The article that I finally found on this when I was researching it, this one has just come out today, finally, from the Wall Street Journal. But it doesn't talk about how China is exploiting our planet and destroying it for the sake of making electric cars. No, it talks about how they've gotten control of the market. And this is pretty frightening, folks, when you think about it. China harnesses a technology that vexed the West, unlocking a treasure chest. Chinese companies achieve dominance by accessing a new source of minerals the world needs for EV batteries. Look at that landscape. That is Indonesia. There is a city on the other side of that hill. And look what they're doing in the countryside just a few miles away. Totally denuding it. Look at this, raping the countryside. In Indonesia, Chinese mineral processing firms are enjoying a nickel rush. Indeed, they are. With their process. 3 Australian projects struggled in the 2000s, unable to reach capacity before their owners ended up in dire financial straits. Western miners poured billions of dollars into a facility in New Caledonia that didn't work as intended and was ultimately sold off. The glitchy nature of the process inspired jokes, such as one about an operation in the Western Australian mining area of Murrin Murrin that had to be revamped shortly after it went into production. Why was Murrin Murrin called Murrin Murrin? Because they had to build it twice. Oh, jeez. Anyway, the Chinese have worked out a system to get this stuff. And China's share of global market for nickel and cobalt. China controls almost 60% of the world's nickel market, and it controls 76% of its cobalt production. 76% of its cobalt production. Can you imagine that? That is shocking. Well, a couple of Nigerian scumbags have been convicted here in the United States of their sexting extortion scheme, which led to the suicide of a young boy and harmed many others. Nigerian brothers jailed in U.S. for sextortion scam targeting teenagers. 17-year-old Jordan Demay committed suicide after being targeted by them. Two brothers from Nigeria targeted a 17-year-old in a sextortion scam have been sentenced to 17 years and 6 months in jail. The Ogoshi brothers from Lagos, why are the Ogoshi brothers in America? Why are they in America? What are they doing here? Why are they here? What's their basis for being here? They lured Jordan Demay into sending them explicit images by pretending to be a girl his age, and then they blackmailed him. He killed himself less than 6 hours after they started talking on Instagram. In the first successful prosecution of Nigerians for sextortion in the United States, where it is a rapidly growing cybercrime, often linked to Nigeria. Jordan's mother, Jen Buta, held pictures of her son in court and wept as she read the victim impact statement. "I'm shattered to my core." She welcomed the ending of the trial, but said there was no good outcome from the tragic case. He was a popular schoolboy from Michigan. Samuel Ogoshi, 24, and Samson Ogoshi, 21, sent him a friend request on Instagram pretending to be a girl, a pretty girl his age, and then flirted with him. Once they received explicit images from him, they blackmailed him for hundreds of dollars, threatening to share the pictures online with his friends if he did not comply. He sent as much money as he could and warned the scammers that he would kill himself if they spread the images. The criminals replied, "Good, do that fast, or I'll make you do it." John Demay told Marquette Federal Court in Michigan he still has nightmares after finding his son dead in his bedroom. He said his family was forced to move home to escape the memory. The brothers pled guilty in April to conspiring to sexually exploit teenage boys in Michigan and across the U.S. 38 other U.S. victims were also identified as being targeted by the men. 13 of them were minors. They sat in court in orange jumpsuits with handcuffs. The defense attorney said the brothers' crimes were fueled by drug abuse and sextortion scam culture in Nigeria. The judge called the crimes a callous disregard for life, especially given the continued targeting of other victims after they learned he was dead. Why aren't they in jail for life? They continued to target other kids after he committed suicide, and they knew he committed suicide. These are heartless scumbag filth that shouldn't be in this country. Actually, they're in this country because they were extradited. Thank you, Nigeria. In the first case of its kind, U.S. police tracked the criminals in Lagos last summer and successfully extradited them for trial. So there you go. That certains the story out. That's why they're in the U.S., because Nigeria complied with an extradition order. Thank you, Nigeria. Hats off to the Nigerian government for helping the U.S. extradite these scumbags. Yep. Well, Ukraine is targeting civilian targets in Moscow. These are war crimes. Where are the screams from the Biden regime, the Harris regime, the European Union, from Germany, from France, from NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, or Mark Rutte? Where are the screams about war crimes and crimes against humanity committed by the Ukrainians? Now, you're going to counter that by saying, well, the Russians have pummeled cities in Donetsk. True, but there's a war going on, and it's responsible military to avoid targeting civilian facilities. However, they're in the middle of a combat situation. What Ukraine is doing, launching drones hundreds of miles into Russian territory to attack civilian targets and murder civilians, is a war crime. Now, Ukraine has just ratified the Rome Statute to join the International Criminal Court. This ratification occurred 2 weeks ago. They are now subject to the International Criminal Court. I call on the International Criminal Court to issue a warrant, a bench warrant for the arrest of Volodymyr Zelensky, his Minister of Defense, and his Chief of Staff of the U.S. or the Ukrainian military for war crimes and for crimes against humanity, attacking Russian civilians. Russia's defense ministry said at least 140 drones were launched against targets across country, but most were shot down, including 14 in Moscow itself. Here's a damaged residential building after a drone attack in the Moscow region. That is clearly a civilian target, not a military target. The leadership of Ukraine should be arrested for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Well, a Russian airline worth $100 million, Russian airline wants $100 million from Canada for seizing its giant cargo plane. Canada's efforts to seize massive Russian cargo plane are running into legal headwinds, foreshadowing hurdles other countries could face as they try to expropriate Russian assets. Russian airline Volga Dnieper last month filed a $100 million claim against the Canadian government, arguing that its business in the country had been destroyed because Canada expropriated the airline. It's only Antonov AN-124, one of only 26 in the world. The plane is big enough to carry satellites, locomotives, and wind turbines. It's been stuck at Toronto since Canada closed its airspace to Russian aircraft in February 2022. Last year, Canada placed Volga Dnieper on sanctions and then moved to seize the aircraft as part of new powers the government granted itself. new powers the government granted itself, illegitimately, illegally. This Russian aircraft is a private corporation. The government has made no claim, offered no evidence that has anything to do with the Russian military, with the Russian campaign in Ukraine. This is clear theft of property owned by someone else. The Canadian government does not respect property rights. The Canadian government is rogue. The Canadian government is run by fascist socialists who should be hauled before the International Court of Justice for its violation of international norms in seizing a private carrier. This is not a state-owned carrier. This is not like Iraq in 1991 or 1990 when the Tunisians seized their aircraft in Tunisia. And here's the thing, the Tunisians maintained those aircraft for over 2 decades, servicing them. I actually saw that firsthand. I saw Iraqi national carriers being serviced in 2001, a decade after the Tunisians seized these aircraft, going out with APUs, auxiliary power units, to fire up the aircraft, to run it, to turn the turbines, to get it going, to ensure that it was airworthy. The Canadians have neglected this aircraft and left it unattended, and it's in a complete state of degradation after the malfeasance of the Canadian authorities. They are criminals in Canada and must be prosecuted. Well, a Venezuelan opposition leader who claims to have won the election had to flee and seek asylum in Spain as Venezuela's socialist experiment continues with its fascism against human rights and human dignity. Edmundo Gonzalez arrived in Madrid to seek political asylum after being threatened with arrest after the July election. Venezuelan opposition figure Edmundo Gonzalez, who the U.S. and other democracies said won the July presidential elections against strongman Nicolas Maduro, arrived in Spain over the weekend to seek political asylum in a major setback for Venezuela's democratic opposition forces. The regime is cracking down on anyone who speaks out against it, kind of like the Biden-Harris regime. The Harris-Trump debate is tonight, 90 minutes of entertainment, high-stakes rush to Election Day. Kamala Harris now has 51 days without having a press conference since being selected, not elected, as a Democratic nominee for president. Kamala Harris, once again I say, has not had a press conference in 51 days. Kamala Harris has not addressed the American people in nearly 2 months since being nominated in a corrupt, anti-democratic, stolen nomination in the corrupt Democratic Party. That's a different Antonov. So this is what Donald Trump has to say about Social Security. Donald Trump has promised to end the asinine, immoral tax on Social Security. We were sold for decades that Social Security is a retirement fund. You're being compensated for your time working because you pay into it. And then in 1984, a corrupt bargain was made to save Social Security, by the Reagan administration and Congress. And they doubled the rate of taxation of Social Security and began taxing Social Security benefits over $10,000. This is a burden on seniors that has been unjust for over 4 decades. Donald Trump wants to end this in no small measure because of the inflation imposed upon us by the corrupt, malfeasant, illegitimate, ignorant policies of the Harris-Biden regime. So this is what Donald Trump had to say about it.
To help seniors on fixed incomes who are suffering the ravages of Kamala Harris's inflation nightmare, it's a total nightmare, I'm promising no tax on Social Security benefits. This cruel double taxation of Social Security benefits only came into existence in 1984, and at the time it only affected a small number of recipients. Now nearly half of all seniors are forced to pay income tax on Social Security, and thanks to inflation under Harris, this tax has hit the seniors very, very hard every single year. With your vote, I will end the injustice. I will always protect Social Security as I did just 4 years ago. And Medicare likewise will be protected by me, but not by them. They're destroying the system. Our great senior citizens will be happy and they will be safe and they'll be getting their money from Medicare and Social Security. I want to thank you very much. Remember, no tax on Social Security.
There you go, folks. That's the Trump campaign. That's what Donald Trump had to say about it. And it's long overdue. Quite frankly, as I approach the age in a decade or so when I actually draw Social Security, I'd love to see that tax gone myself. Ohio residents are up in arms in Springfield, a small town of 60,000 people that has been intentionally flooded with criminal alien invaders by the Biden-Harris regime, sticking these foreign national criminals into this community to undermine it, because they want to turn them into voters and undermine social cohesion. Now, that social cohesion is not amongst white Americans, not amongst black Americans, not amongst Asian Americans. It's amongst Americans. Americans, an idea, not an ethnicity. And this is unbelievable. I'm going to share a little bit with you what one of the black gentlemen said who resides there. He says, I want out of this town. I'm sorry. Please give me a reason to stay. A citizen is considering leaving Springfield. It's out of control. Residents in Ohio are fuming about the cultural clash between locals and Haitian migrants at a city council meeting demanding the city take action on the issue. Thousands of Haitians arrived in Springfield since the pandemic, and residents have been pointing to an uptick in crime, mayhem, and car crashes due to the massive influx of new residents. In a town of 58,000 people, 20,000 Haitians have flooded in. I see what's going on in the streets, and I see you guys sitting up there in comfy chairs and suits. I really challenge you guys to get out there and do something, said Anthony Harris, 28. That's the gentleman there. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're flipping cars in the middle of the street. I don't know how, you all can be comfortable with this. Resident Lisa Hayes, 64, recounted an incident where migrants were bullying her at a supermarket. They blocked her cart and refused to let her pass through the aisle. I don't know what kind of label you put on this, she said. I would like to see them have some common respect. Resident Diana Daniels blamed cultural clashes. Countries are defined by their culture and their language, not color. When folks stand up here and describe what is happening to them, they're often painted with a broad brush of racism, which has nothing to do with it. Shame on you, she told the city leadership. This is what happens because that city is run by fascist scumbags. Yep, and let me get him up here. This is the gentleman I was talking about. This is what he had to say.
That a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun, because I see what's going on in these streets, and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits, and I'm getting out here every day, and I'm broadcasting this, and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, y'all can be comfortable with this. I don't know, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background.
Yep, I agree with him. Somebody's getting money. That these NGOs are money-making rackets and schemes to bring criminal alien invaders into our country. That's what's going on. Unbelievable. Well, Southwest Airlines activist investors are getting rid of board members. Elliott Investment Management says it's pleased Southwest's board recognized the need for change. It does. Southwest has been languishing since the COVID scam. Executive Chairman Gary Kelly will step down next year in a big board shakeup as the airline faces pressure from an activist investor to overhaul its leadership and business strategy. I would say that Kelly should step down now, not next year. He has served as chief executive officer for 18 years and has been in charge of the stagnation of Southwest. Yep. So, Elliott Investment Management earlier this summer announced that it had built a big position in Southwest with the aim of revamping what was airlines' entrenched leadership. And thank you for that. As a small shareholder of Southwest Airlines, I do appreciate the effort to get rid of this sclerotic board, which has stagnated Southwest's growth. Instead of looking at the possibility of doing long-haul routes to Europe and Asia, they are focused on the Caribbean and money-losing routes. Elon Musk is fueling the memes about the Haitian migrants eating cats. Springfield, Ohio is facing an unprecedented crisis as a surge of approximately 20,000 Haitian migrants floods the city. The news has been so shocking that seemingly everyone, including Elon Musk, has weighed in on the controversy, oftentimes with memes. It's Donald Trump protecting the ducks and kittens in Ohio. God bless. You gotta love it. You gotta love it, folks. It's too funny. It's too funny. So here we go. Here's Donald Trump saving the kitty cats, saving the kitty cats in Springfield. Grab the pussy and run. Grab the pussy. Look at those little kitties. Aren't they adorable? Grab the pussy. Yes, in debates tonight. Why do people keep asking that question? I've only mentioned it 100 times on this broadcast. I said it's at 9 o'clock. If it's on the White House feed, then I will cover it. Pussy galore. That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, ex-NFL star targets Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Yeah, what's going on here? Blatant racism by black athletes, and they get away with it. So here we go. Reverend Martin Luther King would surely be shocked that in today's society, character has little value and everything is based on the color of one's skin, with immense privilege being extended to those who are of the politically correct, less white tones. One such privilege is the freedom to be overtly racist towards people who don't look like you, as seen when former NFL star Antonio Brown took a shot at Brittany Mahomes, Taylor Swift, and Kansas City Chiefs player Travis Kelce. The trio, along with Brittany's husband, Chiefs all-world quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who's colored or mixed race, attended a match at the U.S. Open in New York on Sunday. According to the gossip mongers, it was the first time Brittany and Taylor were seen together since the former had the audacity to like a post from former President Trump. Brown, who managed to wreck what remained of a once stellar NFL career with his bizarre antics, shared a photo of the three minus Patrick on X, along with the comment, "White people for Trump." Antonio Brown, he's a racist. He's is likely among those compelled to vote for a person to lead the United States of America based on the color of her skin alone. I'm persuaded by the fact that the candidate has shown herself to be little more than an empty suit, easily manipulated puppet for the real callers in D.C. As for the racist overturn, it's a safe bet that Brown had no problems with the carefully orchestrated white dudes for Harris campaign gimmick. But it's the fact that Brown, a black man, is so comfortable attacking people based on the color of their skin, understanding that there'll be zero repercussions that stand out here, this likely being just a taste of what may be ahead. Social media users are quick to call the troubled former player out, as seen in the following responses. Al Sharp, here, look at this, black people for Trump. Al Sharp and Jesse Jackson thanking Donald Trump for private donations to several African-American scholarship funds. Look at that. Black people for Trump. That's funny. You pay at child support yet? That's so funny. As stupid post as Antonio Brown, a black person for Harris. Yeah, didn't know you were this racist, but you're also trying to be relevant. The damnedest thing I'd be willing to bet my 30 acres that Patrick Mahomes is going to vote for Trump, along with a lot more black people that look like Trump's record and are middle or lower class. We're sick of you guys. Racist post. Why do you have to bring race into it? Do you hate white people being a multimillionaire? I'm sure you'd be a multi-billionaire, but white people suppressed you? Tom Brady's evil, right? Yep. And so there's race hustling by a racist former NFL player. And speaking of this, here's another race hustling incident, which is getting a lot of attention. And now the actual footage is available. The police officer was put on leave. I don't know why. There's no basis for this. He's Hispanic, by the way. You can hear it in his voice. This racist behavior and this uncooperative behavior by Tyreek Hill from Miami Dolphins before their game the other day. And he tried to turn it into a racist incident. Initially tried to hint at it, but now he's all on full race hustling. When actually he was uncooperative and did not cooperate with police when he was caught speeding. Arrogance of black privilege. Tyreek Hill tweets forward response to body cam footage release. He's responded to body cam footage. He says, "Let's make a change." He was stopped on his way to the game for speeding and reckless driving, wound up in handcuffs on the ground. He said, "Let's make a change." Yeah, let's make a change from having this BS. So he's pulled over in his very expensive car. Police officer walks up, asks him to roll the window down, and listen to his arrogance.
Don't knock on my window. Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Knock on my window like that, though. Like what? Why you have it up?
4 cops pull him over in this $600,000 car, whatever it is. Notice he rolls up his window and doesn't comply with the police.
Hey, keep your window down. Hey.
He's pulled over to lawful legal stop by law enforcement for exceeding the speed limit, reckless driving, endangering public safety. And his arrogance is quite honest here. He puts the window up and is belligerent to the police.
Keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out of the car. As a matter of fact, get out of the car. Give me your ass, Get out of the car. Give me your ass. I'm gonna break that freaking window. Get out of the car. Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out.
So there was another camera angle from another police officer, which you saw from the other side, and it went on longer. He put the window up. The police officer asked him to take it down. This is the arrogance of black privilege, of arrogant people who have been empowered by the lack of law enforcement being able to do the job, and their cowardice over being called racist for simply doing their job. But I understand why law enforcement are afraid to do their job, because when they do their job, they are called racist, and people are illegitimately prosecuted for crimes they don't commit for doing law enforcement.
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. What part of law don't you understand? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested. I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting out, bro. God damn, twin. When we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand?
I'm getting up.
You understand? Not what you want, but what we tell you.
Now, this arrest was prompted by his unresponsiveness, his arrogance to the police, and failure to follow instructions. Whether you like it or not, law enforcement can pull you over. I've been pulled over illegitimately twice in my lifetime for driving while in the military. That's what I call it. People like to say driving while black. Well, driving while in the military is having a license plate from a different state, and you're far away from your state, and you're not committing an offense, and you're harassed by the police. It's happened to me twice. Happened to me in Arizona when I was under the speed limit and being passed by the cars and pulled over because my car fit a certain profile. I was a captain in the U.S. Army, or a major in the U.S. Army when this bullshit happened to me, driving while in the military. So that's bullshit. But when the police came up, I was respectful. I did what the police officer said. I followed his instructions, and there was no tension, even though I was quite angry. It also happened to me in New York State while I was a colonel, when I was pulled over and accused of exceeding the speed limit, going over 20 miles over the speed limit, in what was physically impossible to have achieved based on the distance traveled from where I was at. Anyway, so I fought that ticket and won that in court. The other one was not a ticket, it was a warning. So when law enforcement pulls you over, even if they're rude and disrespectful to you, they weren't here, you follow their instructions. And he refused to follow instructions, and so he prompted arrest. This police officer should not be put on leave. That is bullshit. This is wrong. This is wrong.
You're a little fucking confused.
I'm getting out, bro.
Too late.
Chill,
Too
bro.
late.
All right, bro. Take
Too
me
late.
to jail, bro. Do what you gotta do, bro.
We are. We will.
Good, bro.
It is good.
Hey,
Don't worry about it. I hung up the phone. Can you stop crying?
bro. Y'all,
Don't move.
good.
He stopped crying. I love that. So he continues to be arrogant with the police. Now, the police were using profanity there. You know, it's unnecessary, but it's a heated situation. 4 law enforcement officers here. Fleshman says it happened to me in Virginia, South Carolina with Maryland plates. Exactly. Law enforcement, some law enforcement pull this crap all over the country all the time. It's a really shame. Dude never tried to comply. Instead, he stayed on his phone. Exactly. The law. You know, here's the first thing. These law enforcement officers are out there protecting the public. There are lots of cars going by. It's a dangerous situation to have a car pulled over on the side because people slow down, they get another accident. The longer people are stopped unnecessarily on the road because of his belligerence, the more likely that someone can be injured or harmed or killed. And this arrogant asshat is talking on the phone. You tell the people on the phone, all right, hang on. I got to answer the police here. If you want you can leave the phone live. You can leave the call live. Just put it on the dash, put it on the seat, and answer and respond to law enforcement. This arrogant, opinionated black supremacist based on his comments. That's how he's behaving, like a black supremacist. But he's certainly using black privilege, and he found out it didn't work.
Bro, you beating on my window like you crazy.
You set him up?
Why y'all beating on my window?
Y'all beating on my window like you crazy. Beating on my window like you crazy. Well, why was your window up? And by the way, that's not beating. That's beating. Yeah, exactly. Beating on my window. Arrogant black privilege. That's what we see on display here.
Like y'all crazy for? Damn, dude beating on my window like he crazy. I ain't do nothing, twin.
I didn't do nothing. He's beating my window like he's crazy. I didn't do nothing. And then he goes full on into Black Hood voice. Wasn't talking like that when it started. Notice that too about Tyreek Hill. He wasn't in his black ghetto voice until he was in handcuffs. Then what y'all do beating on my window like you're crazy? What's up with that, man? What's up with that? Before that, he was just arrogant. And he wasn't in that voice. Anyone notice that? Anyone notice that? I think that's noteworthy. So here's different footage of it. Stop crying, they tell him. It's funny. So here's different footage. Look at that. You see that? You see that? Did you see that? You see how fast that guy's going? Wow. Let me see if I can't find that. You know, that's the body cam footage. There's no audio on it. But watch his car come by. You can see it on the left-hand side of the screen. And look how fast he's driving. You don't even need a speed gun to see this guy speeding. See, cops are just sitting there. They got their helmet off. This guy's got his helmet off. He's just chilling. Just chilling. This is not even... This is 10 o'clock in the morning before the game. Here it comes. Look on the left. See it go by? Wait. Here it is. There it is. No, that's not it. Where's it at? Somewhere it's coming. There it is. Look. You see it? You see all the other cars go by, and then watch this one go by, how fast it goes by. See them? They're going like 30, 35 miles an hour in a construction zone too. And watch this car come out. Woo! Like the freaking Batmobile. Like the freaking Batmobile. He was speeding, endangering safety. And then he was arrogant. And he was talking on the phone. I don't even know what the law is down in Florida for that. A long-lost copy of the United States Constitution, original copy. When the Constitution was drafted, they printed copies, 2 copies for each of the states to review, to ratify. One disappeared. Yeah, Tyreek Hill. One disappeared. Well, plenty probably disappeared. But one has been found in a filing cabinet in North Carolina. Wow, folks, this is incredible. Long-lost copy U.S. Constitution found in North Carolina filing cabinet. They're sending it to an auction. Historical document appraiser and collector Seth Collar spreads a broadsheet of paper across the desk. It's good enough condition that he could handle it carefully with clean, bare hands. There are just a few creases and tiny discolorations, even though it's just a few weeks shy of 237 years old and has spent who knows how long inside a filing cabinet in North Carolina. At the top of the first page are the familiar words, but in type instead of a sweeping Gothic script, we're used to saying, "We the people." Wow. Minimum bid for the auction is $1 million has already been made, and there's no minimum price that must be reached. Wow. This copy was printed after the Constitutional Convention finished drafting a proposed framework of the nation's government in 1787 and sent it to the Congress of the ineffective first American government under the Articles of Confederation. It's one of about 100 copies printed by the Secretary of the Congress, Charles Thompson. Just 8 are known to still exist, and the other 7 are publicly owned. Wow. Thomas likely signed 2 copies for each of the original 13 states, essentially certifying them. They were sent to special ratifying conventions where representatives, all white and male, wrangled for months. What does that have? What does that have to do with anything? Why does CNN have to put in that all the representatives are all white and male? We know that. Unless you're an idiot and don't know history, why is that in there? All the representatives are white and male. Okay, I'll tell you what. The Haitian government produced its constitution in 1806 after overthrowing the French colonialists and the all-black male legislature. Of course it's all black and male. They murdered all the whites. Stupid. Anyway, wow, this is incredible. Here's the place where they found it. Look at this place. The file cabinet on the left-hand side is where they found this. Look at that room. Edenton, North Carolina. Unbelievable, folks. It's pretty wild. That's crazy. Other items up for auction in Asheville include 1776 first draft of the Articles of Confederation and a 1788 Journal of the Convention, North Carolina at Hillsborough, where representatives spent 2 weeks debating if ratifying the Constitution would put too much power with the nation instead of the states, which is where it's at today. They were right to debate it back then. So, folks, if you're an American, would you pay Harris's wealth tax? Well, let's talk about that. Here's an op-ed that appears in the Wall Street Journal, and I'm going to talk about it. I'll show it to you, and then I'm actually going to read from it so you can take a peek at it. There you go. The sell-off caused by a levy on unrealized capital gains would devastate ordinary investors and 401k plans. So, I'm going to read that op-ed because I think it's important. So, this is by Hal Scott and John Gulliver. Kamala Harris has doubled down on her support for a radical new tax on the unrealized capital gains of the ultra-rich. She calls it the billionaire minimum tax, but it would be better to call it the capital markets death tax. It would crush the U.S. stock market, grinding initial public offerings to a halt and hit you in your 401k plan. Federal capital gains taxes have historically applied only when an asset is sold and income from the sale is realized. In recent years, the left has been looking for a way to increase levies on the wealthiest Americans by taxing the appreciation of their assets, even if the assets aren't sold and income isn't realized. In other words, theft of your property. Senator Ron Wyden, a scumbag Democrat from Oregon, proposed such a tax in 2021. Dingbat Joe Biden offered his support in his 2024 State of the Nation address and the 2025 budget, which Kamala Harris endorsed. The Biden-Harris wealth tax would apply a minimum of 25% annual tax on the income and unrealized capital gains of Americans worth more than $100 million. Mr. Biden's dingbat budget for 2025 with a $2 trillion deficit estimates that without justification, this tax would generate $500 billion in new revenue over 10 years. So a federal budget of $7.4 trillion, they're going to get $50 billion a year. $7.4 trillion federal budget, $50 billion from this tax, and they're going to destroy the retirement and savings of tens of millions of Americans to do it. He proposes using the windfall to expand social programs. So he wants to use the $50 billion to expand social programs when we have a $2 trillion deficit. $50 billion wouldn't even put a dent in the $2 trillion deficit. These people are lunatics. Yet the Biden-Harris wealth tax would send public markets into a tailspin and hurt all investors, not just the wealthiest. Billionaires alone own more than $5 trillion in stock, or 7% of the entire stock market. Public stock represents 66% of their wealth, so that we need to sell hundreds of billions of dollars worth of stock to pay the tax every year. These sales would drive down stock prices and therefore returns for all investors. The largest, most innovative, and fastest growing U.S. tech companies would be hit the hardest. Unrealized capital gains are concentrated in those companies. This wouldn't be a one-time problem. Stock sales would need to continue each year to pay the annual wealth tax. This would be a long-term drag on the returns of all investors while also reducing the skin in the game of the innovative founders who built these companies. The wealthiest Americans would be entitled to tax refunds in future years if the value of the remaining stock holdings goes down, but that wouldn't diminish the effect of the tax on capital gains because you can only take away $3,000 a year. U.S. taxpayers with assets of more than $100 million hold approximately $4 trillion in unrealized capital gains in the shares of private corporations. Selling these investments to cover a tax bill is even more difficult than selling stock in public companies. Private companies generally don't have active trading markets. So finding a buyer can be difficult and the cost of selling high. These sales can disrupt growth of private companies, which are often managed by their owners. The Biden-Harris tax, therefore, includes an exemption from proposed wealth tax for the ultra-rich who have 80% of their wealth in non-tradable illiquid assets, such as investments in private companies. This would create a major incentive for the wealthiest Americans either to delist the public companies that they control, taking opportunities for us to invest private, or keep their private companies from going public in the first place. If the ultra-rich respond this way, it would reduce projected tax revenue and hurt all investors by shrinking the size of public markets, which is what I just said. Public markets are already small and getting smaller. In 1996, there were more than 8,000 public companies in the United States. Today, there are fewer than 5,000. Private markets are increasingly able to support capital needs of large companies. There are now more than 700 private companies worth more than $1 billion, and more than 40 private companies worth more than $10 billion. The most innovative and fastest growing U.S. companies are private. Some are worth more than $100 billion, including OpenAI, SpaceX. Will Sam Altman and Elon Musk take these companies public if doing so comes with a multi-billion-dollar tax bill? Yeah, billionaire founders also have voting control over many large public companies through dual-class share structures and can therefore potentially force a delisting of their public companies to save billions and defraud us of our investment. Perhaps the trillion-dollar mega-cap technology stocks are too big to take private, but investors in these companies will suffer as their billionaire founders shift their attention to private companies where they have a better return on their investment and innovation. The shrinkage of public markets is a big deal for anyone with a 401k retirement plan, as 90% of U.S. investors don't meet the minimum wealth and income requirements to invest in private markets. 90% of Americans cannot make private sector investments. If Ms. Harris has her way, it could lead to irreparable harm to Americans' ability to pay for their retirements. The left's desire to punish the ultra-rich for their success will end up hurting the rest of us. And that is the op-ed, and it's 100% correct. And I see that everybody left. Yeah, we dropped down to 80 people from, anyway, 103 likes. Thanks for that, folks. Let me get back to the chat. All right, let me get back to chat and see what I missed here. Why are my timestamps not here? This is really annoying why it does this. Okay, it only lets me go back so far to 12:30. That's an hour ago. Okay, what else? It's just chatting there back and forth. No questions here. SME is buffering. Didn't know that. Zulu had to leave. Okay. What else we got here? Seychelles is going to be swamped if you believe that the global ice caps are melting. It'll be underwater, so I don't know if you want to go to Seychelles. Canthan Pillay was here. I don't know if he still is. Congo Chris. Okay. What else we got here? The Basutu land became a protector of the crown. Yep. Same thing the Botswana did. Okay. Looking at the chat here. Colonel, you will know better than me, but was Antonov one of a kind mega cargo destroyed? Yes, it was. That was destroyed in Kiev because they were too stupid to get it in the air. They left it there for days and should have flown it to Germany or Poland. Idiots. But the country's run by a grifter, so what do you expect? Hendo wants to know if I'm covering the debate. It depends. I have to look and see. If I can cover it live, I will. Pumping in numbers and getting voters for ANC. Yep. Yes, you are correct, Smee. The debate will be 3 a.m. for South Africans. That's why I won't have a big audience. A lot of my audience is South African. Majority of my state's power comes from hydropower, mountain glaciers. And is that in Montana? Cabello Quacha, Hawaii. Welcome to you. Colonel, you will know better. Okay, I already read that. Okay. Oh, it jumped backwards. Sorry. Back from supper again. Pussy galore. Hey, Charles. UK Parliament was going to summon Elon Musk over far-right allegations. They can shove it. Elon Musk doesn't operate in the UK. UK can shove it. If you use this turn-off vehicle in the US, you pull over turn-off vehicles. Yep, light rain. Okay, turn off vehicle, put keys in dashboard, keep hands visible, don't fidget, follow all instructions, you'll have a nice day. Exactly. Exactly right. Cops would have a field day in South Africa. They carried on like that. Yep. Kurtz only pulls over police officer police station. Well, that's because you live in South Africa, and that's good advice. Fleshman says it happened to him twice with Maryland plates. Yep. A new South Africa is part of a deep state. Hillary Clinton wears America's taxes. $7 million you give to South Africa. We give a lot to South Africa. That's correct, but not $7 billion. No. That would represent a huge chunk of our foreign budget. We have $20 billion in two-way trade. About $3 billion plus of that goes to the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, which is duty-free. And we give South Africa about $500 million a year. Fleshing complied, and it went well for you. Yep. I complied, and then I fought the ticket because it was bogus. I wasn't going 75. That's a joke. I was going 58 miles per hour. I know that because as I crested a hill, it started, it was on cruise control and it started to pick up speed. I'm like, no. As I tapped on the brakes as a cop went by, and he whipped around in a cornfield, pulled me over at a petrol station, and then said I was going 75. He said I was going fast enough, but he wrote me a ticket for 75. It's a $600 fine in New York State, and I'm not paying that. So I drove 4 hours up to make a court appearance and refute it, and I won my case. Remember in mid-1983 being pulled over by cops in Houston, being a foreigner, got out of the car, but was told to get back in the car and put both hands. Yeah, you don't get out of the car. You don't get that. That escalates the situation. You do not get out of the vehicle unless instructed to do so by law enforcement. No, that's folks, you got to understand, that's a very dangerous situation. Yeah, Eric, he was going fast. Maybe when they earn their rank, I'd respect them. Truth. Oh, you're talking about SAPs. Okay. I want one of those privilege cards. Yeah, exactly. I want a privilege card too. Tyreek Hill has been arrested multiple times in the past for beating his girlfriend, his pregnant wife and son. They want him to be their new black victim. Yeah, exactly. They want to be their new black victim. And they're trying hard. Yep. Debate is at 9 p.m., Pablo Charlie. Our time. I think most of these bills and laws are not read and understood. Trump will create a sovereign wealth fund and will be the crypto president world. Pablo, we can't create a sovereign wealth fund. We're a debtor nation. We owe $35 trillion. Let's pay down our debt and meet our obligations and stop spending money we don't have before we create a national sovereign wealth fund. If you want to be healthy financially, you don't put $5 in the savings bank. You pay $5 on the debt you owe to pay it down. National sovereign wealth fund. This country can't afford a national sovereign wealth fund. We have no freaking money. Well, we have money, but it's being wasted by a government. That dumbass burned his runner girlfriend, died himself today. Yeah, I heard that. How did he die? I didn't see how he died. Oh, because he was also burned. But good, he suffered longer than she did. I call Trump one of the most innovative U.S. presidents in history with full confidence, says Pablo Charlie. Okay. Yes, me again. It's a free live stream for people to watch it. That doesn't mean I can restream it. That doesn't mean I have the rights because it's their broadcast. They have to say I can broadcast it. And that's the problem with these debates. If the White House covers it, okay, you guys keep asking, so let me just look and see. So, White House. Let me see if the White House will cover the debate. Come on, YouTube. A little faster there. At White House. Okay. Doesn't have any upcoming stuff. Okay, let's just do it this way. Trump or Harris debate. Okay. Let's see what shows up. Okay. ABC. Times of India is going to show it. CNN. I don't see the White House. Reuters. I got to get one that's not a commercial site, that's government owned or it's public domain. I'll try. I'll keep looking. Yeah, Fox will cover it, and Fox won't go after me for copyright strike, so I could try Fox if it's on there. U.S. has oil, gas, everything, for goodness sake. We do. Well, if nobody's going to pay their debts, then it's all over. I pay my debt every month. I have a mortgage, and I pay it down every single month. Will Gate McKenzie speak to South Africa Broadcasting Corporation? Sober can watch the debate. I don't know what sober means. Yep, it's a vlog, Pablo. Okay, I'll probably do it, and I'll probably use the Fox that way, you know. But the thing is, it's normally something the White House would have on their page, and they don't have it listed yet. So we had a situation where CNN, whoever did the last debate, threatened broadcasters, content creators, if they used the broadcast, they would come down and shut their channels down. So I don't want to lose my channel over that. And if I do it, it'll be on the other channel, at Real Chris Wyatt, not on this channel. So I didn't ask which state's the majority of hydropower. I just asked the question whether you were in Montana. Like Mount Baker, my user image, snow 30 meters deep, world record feeders. Yes, I've flown over Mount Baker. Yep. Well, around it, I should say. I have nice photographs of it from the air. Wait till they change the name of Mount Baker to something. Kings of all kings will be the next police minister. He will look at them double pace of Minister Bukela. Watch it. I have no idea. Gate McKenzie's king of all kings. Yeah, we'll see. Gate McKenzie's saying stupid stuff today about the Bafana. So we'll see. Anyway, there you have it, folks. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done it already. Painting White House bathrooms. Miss Trump chose the new color. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this today. Interesting. And once again, the Easter egg was back there, and it's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. My horrible, liberal, but beautiful state. Yeah, no, Washington is beautiful. It's a shame it's ruined by leftists. It's amazing. It's two different environments entirely. You've got the temperate rainforest. It's the greatest or densest amount of vegetation. Living mass in a rainforest on the planet is the temperate rainforest in western Washington state. Then as you go east, you have a complete divide in weather. You get to Spokane, and you compare it to Olympia, completely different worlds, or Olympic National Forest. It's a beautiful place. Unfortunately, you have I-5, which is a disaster. When you go from Tacoma to Seattle, or from Fort Lewis to Seattle, it's horrific. I haven't driven there in over 20 years, and 20 years ago it was horrible. I can't imagine what it's like now. You also have all those lefties who work for Microsoft and for Real Networks and those other tech companies in Seattle who drive up rents and act like fools and are vegans and have nose piercings and all this other bizarre stuff. And it's a crazy place. But a beautiful natural landscape is Washington State. Is Gayton bringing demographics to... yeah, exactly. Exactly, Charles. That should be a bigger issue for him. Equity and inclusion for Bafana. D.C. is a banana state outside the White House. Yeah, it is a banana. Well, this country is a banana republic without the bananas. How many word salads are we going to hear from? That should be interesting. So I will try to stream it tonight, folks. Whatever the case is, I'll definitely watch it, and I'll give it. If I can't stream it, I'll give an analysis afterwards. Okay. All right. So yeah, but I will be covering it tonight. Tonight will potentially make or break the race. Kamala Harris could disappear from the earth with her performance tonight, or she could tread water and survive. I think ABC will go out of their way to ask her softball questions while using attack questions on Donald Trump that are not relevant to the issues. Yep. Thank you, Charles. Yeah, but I got to see if it's on. Hopefully it's on something I can broadcast. I can get away with Fox. So if it's on Fox, I'll schedule it and we'll talk about it. All right. If it's on the White House, I'll definitely cover it. So I try to avoid things like Associated Press or CNN because they'll come after you. It's in the public domain, but ABC owns the broadcast, so you have to be careful of that. Can we declare Minnesota as a Somali enclave? Maybe. Actually, the number of Somalis there is numerically smaller than people realize, but yeah, there's a lot of Somalis there. Yep. But we have these patches all over. We have Maryland and Atlanta and Minnesota and where's the other place? Full of Liberians. Maryland's full of Liberians too. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. Greatest of all time, Rossi Erasmus. No, Hendo, that's me. That's me. Yeah, no, just got to be careful. And in the past, I didn't worry about it. It wasn't a big issue because this is a matter of public interest. It was never challenged. But when Sleepy Joe did a debate with Donald Trump the night I returned, the content creators on social media and YouTube in particular were threatened by CNN. If they broadcast that, they would come after them. So, yep. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Hey, Sue. I see you chatting there at the end. All right, have a good day, folks. God bless, and thanks for being here. Really do appreciate it. And we'll see you tonight, hopefully. Cheers.